are. Hello and welcome, everyone, to the first Fantasy Life DraftKings best ball stream of the summer. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It's a great day to be great. Great day to hopefully win $1 million. That's right. We were trying to take down the DraftKings streets. And yeah, draft is starting here in about a minute, 30 seconds. So as always on this Friday morning edition, I am joined by Fantasy Life's finest Fantasy Life Director of Analytics, Dwain, The Rock McFarland. Dwain, we thought we were going to have, maybe a 5-minute lag between entering, but no, we're live. Let's do it.
We'll do it live, Ian. We'll do it live. As someone great once said, the Bill O'Reilly. That was like the first thing I think that hooked me on YouTube was that, Yeah, man. Great day to be great, as you would say. Friday morning, going to draft a team. I jumped in on DraftKings earlier today. Went ahead and got one in early this morning. So, yeah, I'm ready to rock.
Some music from something. That's kind of catchy. A little tune.
Should we start doing a little song?
Let's go. All right, Dwain, you are sitting out of the 3 spot.
Where are you?
Closer to, I'm 6. I got the Hartitz tag, the OG Fantasy Labs logo on DraftKings. I am not.
I see you,
Johnson. But yeah, man. Who you been liking out of 3?
I
can't snipe you.
I mean, if I get CD Lamb, great. If not, I'm going Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming CMC goes 1. CMC falls to 3. You're going with it. Full PPR over here, just so folks that are listening that don't know, you got to start 3 wide receivers. You've got 1 flex. You got 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback. So the receivers go pretty fast. Like I said, full PPR. So typically I'm trying to focus on the wide receivers up here at the top if I'm not getting CMC.
Now, you said during one of our team preview pods yesterday, we recorded about 8 this week, so they're kind of starting to blend together for me, how if you were in a draft, just doing one team, some people do that, and that's fine. We don't judge. Your order would be CD, CMC, and then I believe it was Tyreek, and then you would actually go Bijan and Brees. Not the case in the best ball streets, though?
Yeah, no. I mean, I look, here's the thing. I would, but I'm also going to draft, 500 teams. I don't know how many teams I want to draft. So I also don't want to overly complicate things. If I've got 2 or 3 guys that I like that are really close together, I don't want to make a major stand knowing that I'm going to have pretty even exposure to all those guys, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. And with that,
again, if I was just doing one draft, it changes things.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill off the board. I'll be sure to take Tua 60 picks ahead of ADP just to ruin your Friday morning. But, we got a little bit more time before that.
You can't ruin my Friday morning. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Yeah, man. I got the first cup of coffee today, man. First of many. It's a great day to be great. All right. I am on the clock. True sun god himself is off. So it's between Justin Jefferson and some of these running backs. And yeah, guys, love JJ. If we were picking a real life team, or we were in Madden, I'm probably taking him here, but we're not. We're picking a best ball team because of that. I'm going with Bijan Robinson. I've been mixed up a couple times, man, just out of the 101 or 102, just trying to get a different, lineup out of there. I've thrown Bijan in that spot. As much as CMC is the 101 for a good reason, and yes, if I was in one draft, I'd do it. It's not like he has a 100% chance of finishing as the RB1, man. Bijan or even Brees could get there.
Yeah, I think it's Bijan. Well, I think it's, if I had to put it in an exact order, it's CMC, Brees, then Bijan. But I really, Bijan and Brees Hall are interchangeable. And I don't want to make a super strong stand with one over the other. Again, drafting one team in a vacuum, I'm going Brees Hall over Bijan, just because I feel that for 2 straight seasons, he's shown absolute elite receiving, chops as far as ability to earn targets, mismatch in the passing game. Bijan also really good, but not at the level. I mean, Brees Hall over these first 2 seasons has been at the level of, historic guys like CMC, Kamara, those guys. Bijan first year was really a notch below that. Not saying that he can't take that next step forward, but look, you love drafting any one of those guys. And I think that it won't surprise me if any one of those guys is the RB1 this season. CMC just has to stay healthy, right? He's to that point where I know we hate to say it, and we've been talking about it, but he could fall off a cliff. He's getting up there in age. He's got a lot of touches. Typically, these guys that catch the ball, Ian, do age a little bit better, especially if you're playing in formats that are friendly to that, like this, full PPR. So I worry about it a little bit less. But still, I mean, CMC, he's got some mileage.
Good way to, I think, where is Bijan with this? Okay, I thought Bijan's ADOT would actually be a little bit higher because, last year he had 86 targets but only caught 58 of them, which I think if you want to look, for the whole, Desmond Ridder effect, look no further there. But I'm back on the clock right here. Let's get it sorted by ADP, please. 13 seconds. Don't panic, Ian. Devontae Adams should have more targets going on. I've tended to lean to him in this situation. So I'm going to go ahead and take Devontae. But man, this is that tier of wide receivers where I don't have the strongest lean, Dwain. After Drake London, Marv, and Garrett Wilson go, I really do feel like it's a bigger tier. And that's why in some drafts, I have been willing to take Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley there. Now, they went way earlier in this draft, so wasn't exactly going to pull the trigger on Kyron early. But, Devontae, yes, we can talk after you make your pick, Dwain. I'll let you kind of do that on your own. We can talk about the age cliff stuff. We can talk about Devontae, not actually having all that great of advanced metrics across the board last year. Quarterback situations are getting better. I know I'm saying a lot of negatives, but my God, guys, 170 plus targets certainly looking on the table once again for him. So, and honestly, Nico, target competition, Brandon Ayuk, the overall target number, Mike Evans, similar age cliff concerns. I mean, this is the point in the draft, Dwain, where again, there is at least one red flag for the wide receivers. So that's why when you take someone like Devin Achane, I get it.
Man, I just feel like Achane is the pick that I could just really regret not making, to be honest. Like, look, dude, the guy, he showed us the ceiling last year. And if it suddenly comes out in week 1 or week 2 and we're sitting there talking about utilization and Achane, which everybody says could never happen. Oh, no, he'll never take over the full workload, guys. He'll never do it. Like, you guys, come on. You can't say never. You really don't know. We've said this about so many running backs over the history of this thing. Like, come on. I think we've got to wake up and just admit that we're not always the best at predicting this stuff. So yeah, Achane for me, just absolute chance to wreck somebody else's fantasy season. I want him on my team. If he does get to a 60% snap share somehow, he'll be in the conversation for the running back 1 overall. If he doesn't, hell, the guy averaged almost 20 fantasy points per game in the games he played with Raheem Mostert last year.
Deebo Samuel for Dwain, and I am back on the clock. We got DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, who I don't love, but I do love Anthony Richardson. So therefore, got to kind of put up a Pittman. I'm going to go ahead and just keep doing what I'm doing. That's taking Malik Neighbors in this range. Again, just, really being a slave to D-Max projections over here and just taking the guys I think could end up getting, 150 plus. So Cooper Kupp going a lot earlier, I think, it's not a ton earlier than over an underdog, but you do see it. But yeah, man, DJ Moore, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf is someone I'm kind of taking in that range. But again, Dwain, I don't see that big of a difference between these guys going right now and the guys going arguably around earlier. It's past that London point. After the first 10 wide receivers, I do think it's a longer tier. And I want some of those guys, don't get me wrong. But again, this is a decent chance to either get that hero RB or dip your toes into the elite tight end waters.
Yeah, for sure. And with my other pick, I went Deebo. I'm sorry, that was bad. That's bad broadcasting.
That pick?
Yeah. No, not. I don't. I know you think it's a bad pick. I don't.
It's fine.
I know people talk about Brandon Ayuk being the better player, but really, for the most part, it's more often Deebo than it is Ayuk. And the thing is, Deebo gets the padding. They're similar in what they do from a target earning ability. Deebo gets more schemed up looks.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that Brandon Ayuk is the better straight up wide receiver if you got to line him up outside at the X. But the reality is, we're playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and he wants to design looks for this guy. And really, they're just always trying to put a defense in the bind. They're trying to put the defense in the grounder. You want to go man? Great. We're going to come over and we're going to hit Brandon Ayuk. You can't cover him, and you can't deal with Kittle on top of that. Oh, you want to put a linebacker on Christian McCaffrey? Sorry. And so Deebo gets hurt when they go man. But let's face it, 70% of coverage around that is essentially zone coverage, especially for the kind of routes Deebo's getting to run. A lot of zone turns to man, but Deebo gets a lot of schemed up stuff. So his stats get padded, and then you add the rushing on top of that. And I'm sorry, I just think Deebo Samuel's a better pick than Brandon Ayuk. Now, Brandon Ayuk, how you run pure on that is somehow they do trade him. Yep. There was the rumors this week that the Commanders did really try to go after Ayuk, and the 49ers said they didn't want to do it. So if he somehow got traded somewhere, like if he get traded to Buffalo, I know this is the one we always use, Buffalo or somewhere like that. Brandon Ayuk would move in the first round. No doubt the talent's there.
I guess with Deebo, man, people I think it's that last game recency bias. They're just holding the Super Bowl performance against them. And now all of a sudden, I posted a video of over 2 minutes of him breaking tackles. And they're like, oh, yeah, show me him beating man coverage, though. And to your point, man, in the Shanahan offense doesn't necessarily even get asked to do it all that often. Doesn't matter. So why are we all that worried?
We overthink shit too much.
Yes, we do. All right. I am on the clock. Don't really have any stacking partners until way late in the draft for my Giants and Raiders wide receiver ones that I'm working with. So decent chance to probably get another wide receiver. I'm going to go with T. Higgins at this point, who I think is still, as cheap as he is, more so because of the trade rumors and, him requesting one earlier in the offseason. But that's been solved. These guys' deal's done. He even said back in April that he expected to play in Cincy anyway this year. So T. Higgins, someone that last time we saw him with a healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy T. Higgins, man, he was putting up top 20 numbers, even top 12 numbers back in that 2021 season. So obviously huge contingency upside. If something happens to Jamar Chase, we're probably sliding Higgins into the wide receiver one, a conversation sooner rather than later. But Dwain, you're about to be on the clock here. Already got Tyreek and Deebo and Achane. What are you thinking?
I mean, Amari Cooper would make sense from a standpoint of the bring back with, Miami, and Amari Cooper. Look, he's been good, but I just feel like the ceiling of T. Higgins is too much. I can't pass it.
I just drafted T. Higgins, bro.
I mean, not T. Higgins. I mean, George Pickens. No, I was just going with a rhyme.
You can't have him.
No, George Pickens. Like George Pickens last year, 26% target share on plays without Deontay Johnson on the field. We know he can win at all levels. And the beauty of it was when they didn't have Deontay Johnson, they actually just opened this guy's route tree up. Yeah. And we saw that he actually can win at all the different levels. Just so happens, and this is where coaching can, play a role, is if you're out there running, gassers all game, you're not going to get targeted a ton. Like NFL defense, they're trying to take that pass away. So we saw what the world could look like with George Pickens in a role where he gets to, fully embrace the full route tree. And so I want to be a part of that. I'm overweight on George Pickens. I'm about 130 fantasy drafts in. I think I'm at 17 or 18% George Pickens. So I mean, I'm pretty heavy on him.
There couldn't be less target competition. The only bad thing people have to say is just the assumption that Arthur Smith is going to find a way to mess it up, which could have happened, I guess. But man, as bad as the quarterback situation was last season in Pittsburgh, with all due respect to Mason Rudolph's hot final month of the season, man, Russell Wilson, no, he's not, prime Russ or anything, but that didn't stop Cortland Sutton from getting double-digit touchdowns. And Justin Fields literally just got done freeing DJ Moore. So again, George Pickens with the potential to have double-digit weekly targets, man, I'm with you. I would have made the same pick. So going into round 5, Trey McBride off the board. Still have, a handful of elite tight ends left. But Dwain, you got your 3 wide receivers. 4 and 7, usually the good rule of thumb for you?
4 what? What's the question? Sorry, I'm thinking about
just
my
pick. You're good.
Man, I'm trying to decide between Kincaid and Mark Andrews. I'm gonna go Andrews.
Wow. Yeah, I would have too, but
Well, I like Kincaid and I want to mix it up, but I do get the matchup in week 16. So as a tiebreaker between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So I kind of let those things just act as tiebreakers. I don't want those things to drive me. Like on the pick before, I was like, no, I'm going Pickens over Cooper. Amari Cooper's a wide receiver too, right? And he's going into his age 30 season. If he does drop off, he's a wide receiver 3 or 4. He's probably still a wide receiver 2. He hadn't shown any signs. Pickens, it gives you all that upside. But when I get to Andrews versus Kincaid, I mean, honestly, Andrews has proven more. And, getting him against Pickens, it's a tiebreaker.
That's why I have both those guys in front of Trey McBride too, man. I'm sorry. It was a fun 9 weeks, but it was also a fun 9 weeks with no target competition on a dead-in-the-water team, man.
Yeah, I don't think you have to necessarily make a stand on those guys, though. I think they're all good profiles, and you should be mixing them in. And if you find ways to let tiebreakers lead you, I mean, you may have a thought on why you're taking a serious stand on one of them. Do we have an auto drafter? No, he doesn't say he's auto drafting. He just straight up went Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud.
Yeah, he's probably stoned. Not that there's anything wrong. All right, I am looking at the tight ends here. Not loving it, though. Honestly, I already got my Giants bring back. I love drafting this guy. Give me some Anthony Richardson. And one of the things I love about Richardson is Look, I didn't get Michael Pittman, and that kind of means if I want to stack them up, I'm going to be looking at Josh Downs and A.D. Mitchell. If I'm looking at those guys, that's 2 wide receivers going outside the top 50. So honestly, Dwayne, I feel even better about not needing to, excessively go and pound wide receivers with my next few picks here, because I know for a fact I'm going to be attacking some extra Colts guys. And, also additionally with my Giants and Raiders stacks, Jacoby Myers, maybe some Darius Slayton. That's why I try not to go too crazy with some of the wide receiver stuff going on, just because, again, if I am in a situation where I can build up the complimentary ones, the game stack guys later, I think you're good with 4 or 5 inside of the first 7 or 8 rounds. But more on that, guys, in just a little bit. I want to give a shout out to the people that we're actually drafting on right now, and that is DraftKings, because, guys, really great opportunities, more so than just even in the best ball streets, which we enjoy, but also want to get your hands in the sports book. Just like us, it is indeed a fun time. And what better time to do it than this Saturday, UFC 303 in Vegas. Could it get any better? It sure can when you get on the action with our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Truly a banger of the card. Alex Pereira, Yuri Prohaska in the main event. I cannot wait for this one. I know. We were supposed to have Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, but they also added Diego Lopez, Brian Ortega, Ian Gary versus MVP. Please, MVP prayer circle. Knock out Ian Gary. I would be so freaking happy. But yeah, guys, if you're new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers who bet just $5 can get $150 in bonus bets instantly. All you got to do is, again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code FANTASYLIFE. The crown is yours. We are flying through this draft, Dwayne. I am almost right back there on the board. Tight ends are as good as gone at this point, except for one still hanging out, Mr. George Kittle doing his thing. So Rashee Rice gone, Marquise Brown gone, Chiefs wide receivers going in this range. But the question I had for you earlier, Dwayne, is there a rule of thumb for you generally with how many wide receivers you want to have through the first 7 or 8 rounds?
Yeah, I think you want 4 or 5.
Okay.
Especially this is particularly to formats where you have to start 3 wide receivers and you have a flex that are half PPR or full PPR. And that's what you're dealing with, full PPR here in a best ball format. And you got to start 3 plus a flex. So it's supply and demand, man. So you've got to adapt. And let's be honest, wide receivers, they don't get hurt quite as much. There's a little bit less volatility with them, because it's like coaches can just decide we're going to split this backfield up 3 ways. Yeah. They don't do that with receivers. You have to have 4 or 5 really good ones on your team to do that. And let's be honest, there's just not enough of them on the planet. So you got to go with it. See, I'm glad I took the tight end earlier, because I thought about letting Kittle come back because I've got Deebo, and you just grabbed Kittle with your pick.
Not on my watch, Dwayne. Not on my watch. Seeing Ingram go ahead of him, this is, I believe, the point where, big conversation on fantasy Twitter, a couple weeks ago, where what does constitute an elite tight end? And for me, after Kittle is where I draw the line. So yeah, Evan Ingram, great year last year. And if you are going to be taking Ingram on a full PPR site like DraftKings, that is the area to do so. But for me, Kittle is certainly still one of those guys who, if things go his way, man, he can win your week each and every time out. So yeah, could have some duds, certainly a reason why he's going around later than guys like Andrews and McBride. But yes, George Kittle signed me up there. Was looking at Calvin Ridley, though, so I don't hate that pick. Chris Godwin for you, Dwayne. You're expecting a bounce back. Certainly one of those situations where you look at the expected fantasy points and the lack of success in the red zone. You say, well, did he suck or was he unlucky?
Yeah, and he's never really been great in the red zone. He's had a year or two. So, I'm not crazy about the Godwin pick, but I feel like he's got upside to be a wide receiver 2. Worst case, he's a wide receiver 3. He's my 4th wide receiver, on the team. So,
by the way, everyone, yes, I'm rolling with the Cow Udders coffee mug. It's the biggest one I got. So it's my stream coffee mug. It fits 2 normal cups of coffee in here. So when I got to go head to head with Dwayne, I got to make sure I'm on all freaking, power for the entire time that we got going on. So Dwayne, you got your 4 wide receivers. You got Achane, you got Andrews. You're back on the clock in round 7. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I'm going with another wide receiver. Just the more and more I've been drafting a ton of Rome Odunze. Right after the NFL draft, and his ADP was still so high, I was concerned about it. But the more that I've researched, looking at Keenan Allen, looking at the way they might use Odunze. Now, Shane Waldron scares me to death. I'm not going to lie. Last year we had this whole situation with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Shane Waldron did not figure it out. Let's be honest. Like, he completely shit the bed on that thing. So that's the risk here. Also, we've got a rookie quarterback, but man, Odunze, the problem is, like, he's priced too far below the other elite rookies. Like, I definitely had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors in their own tier, but Rome Odunze was right there. And in many draft classes, Rome Odunze would have graded out in the supermodel as the top guy. Like, he's number 7 or 8 in the supermodel since 2018. And so he's just going too late. I think he's my 3rd most drafted wide receiver at this point. So just been absolutely loving the price tag on Rome Odunze as he's fallen down the board.
Let's see here. We got 9 seconds. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. Already got Richardson. Was thinking that I didn't maybe need to do it, but there's not a wide receiver on this list that was truly popping out to me. Deontay Johnson a little bit. Brian Thomas Jr. okay, but for me, got my 2 QBs, 2 pretty damn good ones in Richardson and Burrow, which I'm not saying you need to do all the time, but in DraftKings, 20 rounds, not even the 18 that we see at other best ball sites. So I am 1,000% done at QB. Had the T. Higgins stack going on. We'll get some late round Broncos wide receivers. Again, just the way my kind of game stacks are working out, just with, again, everything going on. I'm going to be drafting probably 4 wide receivers that are strictly stacked and then also, correlated either with their own team or the game stack going on. So that's why I'm a little more comfortable in this draft compared to other ones, only sitting with 3 wide receivers through the first handful of rounds. But that's what I say now, Dwayne. Maybe I'll look back on this dead in the water squad here in a few months and be like, what the hell was I doing?
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm probably going with a wide receiver or a running back there. It's just hard to invest that much capital in quarterback this early in a full PPR, where really in my opinion, it's a race to the flex. You want your flex spot to obliterate other people. And so once I've taken an elite tight end, an elite quarterback, which I think your first 2 are really good with Richardson and Kittle. I think actually those are 2 of the best values if you're trying to stay in the elite quarterback conversation. Richardson gives you that upside, and then Kittle does the same thing at tight end. I think you took the guys that are kind of at the cutoff for doing it. So for me, I don't typically make that pick, but I get where you're coming from.
Maine, God, I've been drafting so much Jaylen Warren, but I kind of need a wide receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba, come on down. Full PPR. I don't believe he's an elite talent, but I'm not ready to give up on him just
I think
yet.
He still might be. And Tyler Lockett is definitely on the edge. Tyler Lockett is showing major signs of decline. Look, the most predictive stat year over year, if you're trying to predict next year's fantasy points, is guess what? Fantasy points from the previous year. Yeah. I know we love to talk about all the advanced stats and stuff, but sometimes you got to keep it simple. And then you dig into the underlyings behind that. And that's really something I'm doing in my process. JSN was my target with this pick. I was going to stack him, get the game stack going with Odunze.
Not on my watch.
Yeah. So thanks for doing that. But no, it's a good pick. I think JSN was playing injured last year. We get the Ryan Grubb offense instead of dealing with the Shane Waldron show. So I think you're in a good spot with this.
And again, should I have gone double elite QB? We can argue that, but more than anything, when I am willing to kind of take, in my opinion, the best player on the board, it is when I think there is a tier where it's just a prolonged situation. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, Jordan Addison, Deontay, Jameson, and Jackson. To me, those guys are kind of in that same wide receiver 4 tier. So, and again, got my 4 through 8. Would it have been more ideal to have, someone better than Jackson as that 4th wide receiver? Sure, but I think we're still sitting pretty okay. Dwayne, you got Jaylen Warren. He's, for the 2nd straight year, one of my most drafted running backs. Arthur Smith, though, how are we feeling about it?
Oh, man, here's the good thing. We know Arthur Smith wants to use multiple guys, but Jaylen Warren is just too damn good, man. Jaylen Warren, elite receiving back. People may think of him as a smaller scat back, but he's not. He can make people miss, but the power that he brings to the table is just, in my opinion, on another level. Yeah. So I absolutely love him. I can't stop drafting him. And he's just one of those guys where if it ever worked out where he was the only guy, he's a league winner, man. Yeah. If something happened to Najee, or they just decide we're done with Najee, dude, this guy's a league winner. So I want to be in on Jalen Warren. I want to draft as much of him as I possibly can.
And we now have Russell Wilson under center, who peppered Broncos RBs with more targets than anyone else over these past 2 seasons. So, yeah, a little bit of an aspect of the Sean Payton offense you could argue as well. But, Dwayne, as much as I love my one true king, Cordero Patterson, I do think Jalen Warren would absolutely take over this backfield if given the opportunity.
Yeah. And after that, I go Pollard, who was essentially last year's Jalen Warren, or 2 years ago, Jalen Warren. And with Pollard, there's been a lot of hate on him. Look, I love Tajay Spears, and I do think it's an interchangeable running back situation where we're going to see both of the guys. But again, if it ever comes down to just being Pollard, and if for some reason last year the inefficiency we saw with Pollard was due to that tightrope surgery, what if he still really has that explosiveness that we all loved and wanted? There's a reason we took Tony Pollard, and I do believe that the logic was right where we were drafting him last year. Just so happened that, he didn't look the same. And that happens sometimes. I remember being out on Le'Veon Bell after his rookie season, and he came out the next year a completely changed man. Like, it can happen.
I went ahead in round 9, took Bills wide receiver 1. Maybe. We don't know. Curtis Samuel off the board. This is, for me, you talk about that kind of wide receiver drop off. This is right about when we get there, but I do see past Dwain, even for lesser extent, Cortland Sutton, but for Curtis Samuel, I see it. Deontay Johnson, I see it. I'm not as big of a Jameson Williams hater as most. I'm not trying to, take him in every single draft. But I remember last year, to me, it felt like a steeper drop off around that wide receiver 48 point. I know we were, very into drafting Nico Collins. At least we got that right, when we were kind of going through things. But do you kind of feel that way where, Romeo Doubs could be the Packers wide receiver 1. I wrote about it in the newsletter this morning, man. Like, there are guys there where I understand why they're ranked the way they are, but I don't think it's as steep of a drop off maybe as it has been in past years.
Oh my God, really? See, this is the shit that happens. I passed Tua.
Oh, I thought you were just about to shit on everything I was
saying. No, I'm just looking at this. Like, the Jalen Waddle drafters to my left, right? So he's pick 1.
Yeah.
So I let Tua go, knowing that coming back, I'm getting Tua. Well, no, I'm not getting Tua because a guy down at the other end that does not have any Dolphins takes Tua. He doesn't have any Browns either, so he's not trying to set that up.
If he had got back
he's trying to set up the Jonnu stack later. That's what he's going for. Hartitz.
If he had got back to you though, how far past ADP would he have been? Because I hear you, it's annoying, but when people are taking the unstacked QB around ADP, I feel like
you got to risk
playing with fire.
You got to risk it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think you got to risk it. I do. And then there goes the next one, which is Purdy. Now, Purdy was I could have stacked with Deebo. So now I have no stacks. So this is awesome.
Yet.
And Caleb Williams is already off the board for my Odunze. So I've got Baker. And if I could get the Pittsburgh receiver right. Yeah. I'm sorry. I couldn't pass Paul. I wasn't passing Pollard for Tua. So.
Not even if there's a fire. All right, this is my most drafted running back of the offseason so far. Blake Corum, come on down. Do I think he's taking Kyron Williams' job? No. Although Kyron, the way he actually got quoted the other day was saying that he believes, death taxes, running backs saying they're going to be used more in the slot this year. But Kyron was actually talking about Blake maybe giving him the potential to be more of a pass get down weapon, which sure doesn't sound like, a role that's going to be a complete backup. Lest we forget, people, in week 1 last season, Cam Akers actually out-touched Kyron Williams before he took over the rest of the way. Yes, part of that was due to, this one drive at the end of the game where Akers got 7 or 8 straight carries. But I really think they entered last season wanting it to be more of this 1A, 1B situation. And then, after Cam Akers got in Sean McVay's doghouse for the, last and final time after all these years, they just didn't have anyone else they could trust. So for me, Blake Corum, almost an auto pick for me in round 10 and 11. I think he has, potential standalone value and so much potential upside. Well, Dwayne, when you need Herbert as your third quarterback, man, you just got to do it.
I know. I just drafted Josh Palmer to set up my Herbert stack with him coming back, and the dude takes his third quarterback.
You know what you got to do now? This is a Drake May team you're working with.
Jesus Christ.
This is a Jalen.
Look, overall, this is good, and this stuff happens over at DraftKings. There's some insane stuff over here that you don't see on Underdog, I will say. And it ultimately does, in the long term, bring you value, but sometimes it's a real kick in the balls.
Dwayne said at the beginning of this that there's no way that I could ruin his Friday morning, but I'm not so sure about these other drafters.
Well, I definitely didn't see getting sniped on Tua, Purdy, and Herbert when I just set it up with Palmer. Pick 2 is a complete moron. He has no freaking clue what he's doing.
With all due respect to Bears Den.
No due
75. No due respect.
Idiot.
3 QBs and 4 picks. Oh, there's Gus Edwards too. Rashid Shaheed though. I mean, that's a true playmaker. All right, Dwayne. Tyler Lockett. So it's a Geno Smith team. Let's go.
Yeah, well, no, probably not. So we'll see.
All right, Khalil Shakir off the board. Back to your boy. So still keeping an eye on these Colts wide receivers. I think I can wait a little bit. Looks like A.D. Mitchell probably already went. So still need some help at running back.
Yeah, I was torn. I was about to take Tyler Lockett with the pick before and just set myself up for running back coming back. But yeah.
I am going to go with Chase Brown. I don't love Chase Brown. He's one of these guys where I think earlier in the offseason, like he's fallen a little bit where when he was going more so alongside guys, you know, at the end of this, like Austin Eckler.
He was right next to Tajay Spears. And then like 50 people blew him up as though it was one play. And then he dropped.
That's where I was like, no, I'm not doing this. But once he drops around this spot, man, there is a path to success here. Maybe he is the receiving down back in this offense, you know, with a potentially, just maybe more limited version of Burrow, just based on how the wrist thing's going. I mean, Zach Moss isn't obviously the world's best running back. He looked really good last year, but didn't exactly do much in Buffalo. And Chase Brown, if you do go back and look at what he did at Illinois, I mean, he's not this scat back 85-pound guy that we just can't ever wrap our mind around getting some early down work. So I realize Samaje Perine happens to get cut from the Broncos and comes back to Cincy. You know, that's going to hurt our projection here in a hurry. But at this point in the draft, I do think he makes a bit more sense. So that said, I would have taken Ezekiel Elliott if he was there. He got taken off the board 2 picks earlier. But yeah, you know, when you have one running back through the first 9 rounds, you start talking yourselves into guys like Chase Brown, Dwayne.
I think it's fine taking Chase Brown.
I also have a Bengal stack, so that helps.
Yeah, I think it's fine taking Chase Brown where you've taken him. I agree with you that like now he's just kind of gotten pushed down, you know, a little bit far. So
yeah, I like how I completely forgot I was building a Burrow Higgins stack, and then
I was going to ask
at the last second.
Well, yeah, and you didn't get your Adonai Mitchell piece.
Yeah.
So I mean, is Josh Downs still out there?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, where'd Mitchell go? Oh, he really went earlier. Yeah, I wasn't going to take him at that.
Yeah,
point.
you got to have Josh Downs in your queue though now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hear it. I honestly, man, like straight up, A.D. Mitchell or Josh Downs. I got Josh Downs, especially in full PPR.
A.D. Mitchell or Josh Downs.
Watching some of the Drake May 2022 tape has me as a Josh Downs believer now.
Yeah, I like Josh Downs. My concern is like I want to know like are they going to play him on the outside any?
Like, I think he can do it.
I want to know,
but
I think he can do it. Are they going to do it?
Yeah.
If not, are they going to put Mitchell out there? I agree. I think I like Downs better, but I don't necessarily disagree with the way ADP sits today either.
Yeah. Xavier Leggett off the board. Dwayne, I know what the supermodel says, but
no, he's fine where he goes. I draft quite a bit of him. Like
nice.
guys, like it's like you always say, hate the ADP, not the player. Like the supermodel did not like Xavier Leggett. The bottom line is the Panthers did. And they spent a first round pick on him. So I think he's a fine pick where he goes. I think we're overconfident. Not a big fan of that team down there though. Cause I like when I'm depending on Jameson plus Adonai plus Gabe Davis plus Leggett, now I'm stacking up a lot of profiles overall that I'm not nuts about.
Josh Downs, come on down. See what I did there, everyone. But I'm so happy to hear that about Leggett, Dwayne, because I have been drafting a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, there are only so many humans as big and fast. I am a Deontay Johnson believer. You guys all know that. But at the same time, you know, Leggett could be the guy who actually does get more of the designed, underneath targets and winds up maybe leading this team in overall opportunities. So, we've seen Canales do a lot of good things with Geno and Baker. And honestly, if you get to this point in the draft, I mean, let's see, he already has T-Law and Mahomes. So, he doesn't necessarily need to go after Bryce Young, probably shouldn't go after Bryce Young. But, for you, Dwayne, like if Leggett had been there, Polk's a great pick because now that, it's helping your Chargers, so you can get Drake May later. But I know personally, like I've gotten screwed a couple times on quarterbacks, and Panthers are one of those late ones that you can actually start to build starting with Leggett.
Yeah, Bryce Young's my most drafted quarterback, mainly because of all the late stacks that it sets up. And typically I'm using him when I've already got an elite. You know what I mean? Like, I've already got an elite quarterback on board. I'm just reaching for a quarterback here. I got to take Geno Smith because Baker just freaking went, of course, to a guy that doesn't have Mike Evans.
I like the Ty Chandler pick before that. He's someone I've been going after a lot. It sounds like it could be more of a 1A, 1B than we're expecting in Minnesota. Chandler made the most out of his opportunities last year. Obviously, Madison gone. And, we did see down the stretch, like when Madison was hurt for that 1 week, they pretty much gave Chandler that every down role. So he's not the, last round dart we had last season, but I don't hate that. Wow, Charbonnet's still available.
This quarterback stacking stuff has really kind of thrown me a little bit for a loop here. I'm at 8 wide receivers already. That's not really the way I want to build, but I was trying to set up some backdoor stuff with my quarterbacks, and then I've missed on all of it. I hit the Geno.
There we go.
But Jesus,
I mean, dude, he's been pretty freaking good over these last 2 years. I thought my one thing when I was going through the Seahawks preview, I like, Grubb and everything that he could potentially bring, coming out of Washington. Obviously he has the weapons, but that is one of the teams where you look at the offensive line from last year and they were really bad, and they were a big reason why I think that offense had so much trouble. And then you look at what they did to fix it, and I'm just not sure they're going to be able to kind of do what they want downfield wise. So we'll see what happens for, my Jackson Smith and Jigba share here. I sure hope that Geno gets going. But what would you say, Dwain, your confidence level is that Geno starts all 17 games with good health? I would say
like 99%.
99. I'd say like 75, 80%.
I don't think Sam Howell's that good. Like, the more I've not really researched him, like the passing yards and stuff were good, but
sack taking's horrendous.
Yeah, I think that Geno's actually pretty good. I think he was still good last year. Obviously, some of the efficiency didn't work out in the same way. But yeah, I'm in on Geno this year. One of my most drafted quarterbacks.
Nice. Yeah, the big difference between the two is if you look at, again, percentage of pressure dropbacks that turn into sacks. Geno is like top 5, top 6, good at not letting, those bad situations turn into even worse plays. Meanwhile, Sam Howell got better for a little bit as the year went on, but man, things fell apart pretty badly late, and there were also some rough stretches early on in the season. So yeah, haven't exactly seen many quarterbacks go to Washington, since Joe freaking Theismann, probably, Doug Williams, shout out. That's what we were talking about in our Washington Commanders team preview. Gotta go way back to find a successful one. Hopefully Jaden Daniels bucks the trend, but yeah, it's more so. It's just like when Sam Howell got traded there, I didn't think twice about it. But then Adam Schefter, when he reported on it, was like, yeah, now Sam Howell gets a chance to compete for the job. And then when we've kind of heard, Seahawks even talking about the position, like they haven't really gone out of their way to say Geno is for sure our starter. But, obviously kept him around. And again, should in a meritocracy win that job without too much trouble. Yeah. So Taysom Hill, tight end on DraftKings, Dwain.
I know, man. That's a major difference.
Yeah.
I love Taysom Hill in this format where you're getting him as a tight end. Obviously, don't draft him very often as a quarterback.
Right, never. But I will say, man, I was thinking about this. Like last year, the reason why I was out on Taysom was, more drafts than not, was because I didn't see the path to him ever getting to be the quarterback because Jameis was there. But now, dude,
yeah, that's the backup plan.
Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, Nathan Peterman. Like, we could see Taysom get the QB job again, potentially.
I agree. It could definitely happen.
Tyler Algier off the board, round 14. I wasn't going to take him. This is a Bijan Robinson team, but when I don't have Bijan, I certainly do take a long look at Tyler Algier. Certainly seems to be one injury away from being, a pretty solid featured back in his own right. That's the other thing that annoys me with some of the, talking back about the Falcons team. It's like people act like Algier is just such like a piss poor running back. Why would you ever give him a touch over Bijan Robinson? Not me, Dwain. Not me. Oh, Jermaine Burton.
I was wondering if you were going to get that.
Would have been a lot cooler if I did. All right. Any wide receivers sticking out? Not really. Don't really need them. Tight ends. Nah. Probably should be a little more prepared for this pick, but that's okay. I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson. Talking ball, baby. I'm going with Antonio Gibson. Yeah, I can't stop drafting Antonio Gibson, guys. It's a problem. It is a problem. But got the 11 million. I think if Ramondre Stevenson goes down, it is Antonio Gibson's backfield. And honestly, I I've seen the way you have the projections set up, Dwayne. Like, there is a chance that Antonio Gibson just is this team's pass down back. And honestly, that's kind of what the Patriots beat was talking about when they made the initial signing, where they were very clear, no, Gibson signing, and we saw Stevenson get the $36 million. Like, this is not going to be a situation where Gibson is challenging for the starting job. But hey, Ezekiel Elliott vacating over 200 touches last season. I mean, Zeke was taking away some pass down work from Stevenson. And if there is one thing that we've seen Gibson do, it is get that pass down work. So, hey, guys, again, as we'll say, don't hate the player, hate the ADP. And round 14, Gibson, don't let, the past 2 years of drafting a dude in round 4 and him busting, completely get you off him at this point. But if I wasn't going Gibson, Dwayne probably was.
He was my target. So you've sniped me now on JSN and Gibson because I'm setting up the New England LA game.
This is fun, bro.
So yeah, we're stepping all over each other, or you're stepping on me, a-hole.
Hey, you're gonna get once you get Drake May, man. He just leads you.
I need
Patriots game shoots out.
I'm really honestly like I'm not used to drafters being so willing to just straight up just draft quarterbacks without anything to do with the receivers, and it's happening all over the place. Like, look down this board. Look at how many unstacked team. Ultimately, this is an edge, man.
This is the $20 millionaire one too, man. I'm like, when that happens in one of those $3 shoe-ins, I'm like, all right, kind of comes with the territory a little bit. But yeah, no, we're getting the QBs going. That's something too, Dwayne, that caught us a little bit off guard last year. I know in some of our redrafts with NFFC, where kind of going through it, teams were a lot more willing to take 2 quarterbacks than we were expecting. So maybe just a new era with the way people are drafting QBs, perhaps.
I mean, I consider just taking Drake May right there. Ooh. If he goes, I'm quitting. I'm going to leave the stream. You can get Swing on here. Swing, get ready.
Oh, my gosh. All right. I am on the clock. Still need some RB help. Again, this is life. I'm going to take – I don't fully believe in him, but I'm going to go Jaleel McLaughlin. This is, again, full PPR, so this is kind of the website to take him on if you're going to be doing that. Plus, I have my Bengals stack going on. If you're into the whole Week 17 thing, they do, in fact, play the Broncos. So, Jaleel – do I think he's going to get? It's honestly a similar conversation as Chase Brown. Like, the concern is Samaje Perine going to be taking the pass blocking snaps away from him, and thus a lot more of the third down opportunities. On the one hand, we did see Sean Payton willing to feature Jaleel to a surprising extent, during the first 7 or so games. But man, Dwayne, that utilization it was moving in the right direction, and then it just fell off, which happens sometimes. Maybe it was just a rookie wall that he hit or something.
It was the pass blocking stuff. I mean, they've come out and said they just couldn't trust him on passing downs to block. And then it became an issue where once they had him on the field, like, you basically knew he was getting the ball because they were just getting it to him every time. Now, the Broncos last year, I've never seen a team like this, Ian, where you have multiple guys like over like a 23, 24% targets per route run. Samaje Perine was the lowest. He was like around there. If you look at the utilization report, like, man, not just Jaleel McLaughlin, but Javonte Williams, like, they were through the roof. They were designing a lot of stuff, and it makes sense. It's Sean Payton. He's historically done that, but like, this tells you how bad that wide receiver core was. Like, they were literally drawing up everything to get the ball to the running back. So I do like McLaughlin on the team that you built with your Bengals. Like you mentioned, you get to the bring back. He's definitely an electric player. The question is, like, how big of a role can he get? I mean, when we talk about guys being small, he's really small. So with Sean Payton, though, we've seen him. He's got the creative mind and know how to use a guy like this. He did it with Darren Sproles. He did it obviously with a guy named Alvin Kamara. I don't think that McLaughlin is of that archetype. Not quite. But I do think that he might have some Darren Sproles in him. Yep. And he's got some juice. Hey, if you had Darren Sproles on your fantasy team back in the day, you were pretty happy.
I was doing a podcast with Thomas Emmerich, who does really good offensive line continuity stuff. And he has a cool podcast series where it's like, remember that game type of stuff. And we did the Dolphins-Patriots Wildcat game from 2008. And one of the things we were looking at was just like, the Ted Ginn Juniors, like, were there any players on this team that you remember from old fantasy teams? And the one name that popped out in that mold, Dwayne, was Kevin Falk. Remember some of the PPR goodness he would give?
Yes, I too. What's funny is Kevin Falk, like, he was that small PPR back. He wasn't as explosive, so you really had to work for it if you had Kevin Falk and you're playing with him on Madden.
All right, I'm gonna take I don't think I do have Corum already. I'm going to go with DeMarcus Robinson here. He's on underdog, at least my most drafted wide receiver. I just think he's locked in to the wide receiver 3 role. Guys, 11 personnel, just again, 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. Rams over the past 3 years have ranked first, and last year, first again. So they love keeping 3 wide receivers out there. We saw DeMarcus be the guy well ahead of a healthy Tutu Atwell down the stretch last season. Signed him well before free agency even got started. Like, he is the guy, and I'm not even going to the actual targets down the stretch that were surprisingly close between DeMarcus, Puka, and Cooper Kupp. I'm expecting him to be a distant 3rd option, but my God, if anything happens to Kupp or Puka, now we're talking about Matthew Stafford's potential number 2 pass game option in round 16. So I don't hate the Demario Douglas pick going a little bit afterwards. I'm sure Dwain does and was hoping he could, get both those Patriots receivers, but Drake May, come on down.
I was having to take May first anyway.
Yeah.
At this point,
couldn't risk that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. A lot of people are structurally drafting okay, meaning like allocating the positions right. But man, I've never seen a board like this where so many teams have like no correlation, like not stacking up really anything. Like the Jalen Hurts quarterback doesn't have an Eagle. The Purdy quarterback doesn't have a 49er. Yeah. Prescott quarterback does not have a Cowboy.
And like, I see people posting, I've done this many drafts. I haven't drafted this guy a single time. If you want to take a big stand on that, by all means, it's a free country and everything. But like, I don't believe in rookie parasol. I don't think this year's going to be great. But if I have Brock Purdy and I'm building a 49er stack and I see parasol, like, that's what I'm doing. That's when I'm going to get exposure. No, I'm never going to be a 25% parasol guy. But, I've been doing this long enough to know I'm wrong about plenty of dudes as well. So when we do have a first round talent and I'm building the team, like, that does seem like a decent situation to maybe hedge just a little bit. So Dwayne, 3rd quarterback, Justin Fields, seems like the right team to, again, just take a shot at a guy where if he gets under center, whether he wins the job or whether Russ gets injured, we've seen the rushing ability.
That's all it is.
He's a QB1.
That's all it is. I needed some sort of upside here at the quarterback position after the way this thing played out. On your pick, I was kind of honestly surprised you didn't take Wan'Dale Robinson, though, just because, you've got your...
I got Neighbors.
Yeah, I know, but you've got Anthony Richardson and you got Downs.
No, I know. I feel like I already got the Giants bring back. Oh, God, he is past ADP, though.
Oh, did he come back to you?
Yeah.
There you go. Look, just the way you planned it.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly,
shut up, McFarland. I know
that might be the first time I drafted Wan'Dale this year. I know you said on the pod that you believe in him more. And hey, there have been stretches, man. He came back from the ACL last year, which, we can kind of give him a little bit benefit of doubt. Horrific offense as well. But when he was a rookie, man, like, the targets per route run stuff was taking over the fantasy industry there for a couple of weeks with how much he was getting targeted. So, Neighbors, I don't think is, restricted to the slot as well. It's just, who's the odd man out there? Because we know Neighbors isn't the odd man out. I feel like Slayton is probably their best bet as the X, but he could be. One of Wan'Dale, Slayton, or Jalen Hyatt's going to be the odd man out. Maybe it's Hyatt because he's probably the most one-dimensional of the group.
Yeah, I think Daboll's shown us before he's willing to run the 3 wide stuff. So I think we're going to see quite a bit of 11 personnel now that they've added Neighbors. And I think Slayton will be out there as the X. I just don't think Slayton's that capable of a target earner, especially when you put anyone else good on the field. So I think Wan'Dale Robinson's going to run less routes than Slayton, but I would put money on him to have more targets than Slayton.
And again, I'm way more fine taking these Wan'Dale Robinson, Jaleel, Chase Brown, Josh Downs types when we do get the benefit of full PPR. Big difference there between full and half. Don't let the masses tell you otherwise. So JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix going right out to my Wan'Dale pick. Have not been drafting much of either, Dwayne, I will say, but Nix is the more interesting one where I do think, the level of confidence that he's just not going to be good is a bit surprising. He's probably going to start 17 games for Sean Payton. I remember Joel Klatt saying in freaking February how he just figured that Bo Nix, was going to go to the Broncos at 12 because he just seemed to be the most point guard, kind of smart, get the ball out to the right guy every time, sort of quarterback that Sean Payton wants. So I don't know, man. Like, do you think Sean Payton just all of a sudden is a terrible offensive coach? Because I'm not ready to make that assertion just yet.
No, I think he's still a good offensive coach. I think he just rubs people the wrong way, because how he comes out and tries to always act like he's like the smartest guy in the room kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, I totally set that smoke screen up, just to get them to take this other player. We were setting it all up. Like, it's just, come on, man. Like, we love you, Sean Payton, but get over yourself.
Did someone take Jelani already?
Yeah, he's gone.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh, the tight ends went super early here. Like, I was waiting on Fant. Nope, you're not getting Noah Fant. He went to the unstacked team that doesn't have anything to do with the Seahawks or the Bears. I'm not bitter.
Well, that's not great for me, but we'll watch the film and get better. We got George Kittle, so things could be worse, but yeah. All right, what freaking round are we in? 18. So I'm gonna use my last 2 picks on tight ends. 6-8. I'm going to get one more running back. Someone I've been drafting quite a bit at the end. Chiefs RB2, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think if something happens to Pacheco, I know they got the rugby star guys, but from what it seems like, man, I think they were just hoping to have him be a special teams dude. They didn't add any other running backs. And guess what? Last season, when we did see Pacheco go down, CEH dominated touches, man. And that was with Jerick McKinnon taking the pass down work. Now, McKinnon could re-sign KC. We saw last year where he waited quite a while for him to actually come in. Damn it, Dwain. You had to take Zach Ertz for me.
Dude, you've picked me off with Antonio Gibson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Clyde Edwards.
But that wasn't personal. Zach Ertz was personal.
No, Zach Ertz isn't personal.
It was personal. It was a little bit personal.
Yeah, I'm going to mark your name off my list now. I'm going to have to get back for something in life.
Billy Madison, just lipstick going right up right there.
Lipstick.
Oh, my God. The tight ends I'm about to take are going to be so gross. Who can I? Oh, I can get, I already have all these Rams. God, whenever you're excited about Colby.
Dude, if there's a Theo Johnson team, it has your name on it right now.
I guess, yeah.
But I'll just take him if you decide you might want him.
I don't hate Michael Mayer, man. I think the Raiders are going to be a full-time two tight end offense.
I still take Michael Mayer too.
It is hilarious, like when you go from round, you get to round 18 and you're like, oh, these guys are gross. Yeah, go to round 19 and 20 and see the guys that you start talking yourselves into, guys. I've drafted Kendrick Bourne far too many times and I care to share with the world. Dwayne, you went ahead and went with Javon Baker. Good for your team. And,
And Zach Ertz is the same bye week as Mark Andrews. So I didn't necessarily want that. But like you said, the tight ends have dried up so freaking much.
All right. I guess this is a Theo Johnson team. Come on down, Theo. And hopefully Mayer.
Yeah, but if there's going to be a Theo team, this is it, man.
Dude, and honestly,
he could easily be the guy there.
Do you think I should go Kylan Granson, bro? Like, he was the lead pass catcher last year. I think it'll be Jelani this year, but
at this point, I can't tell you no to anything. If you really wanted to get fancy, you go Eric All. Like, he really popped. Like, he was just never healthy was his problem. But for the seasons that he played and the time he was on the field, man, and he goes with the Bengals. And I mean, come on, it's Mike Gesicki. Like, we know he's just gonna flake.
I wanted Gesicki earlier, but he went a couple picks before.
But the problem with All is, like, they've also got Tanner Hudson. Like, it's just going to be probably a big jumbled mess.
And Burrow's always throwing to the wide receivers anyway. So Theo Johnson, athletic beast out of Penn State. Maybe, just maybe, he'll buck, be more than what Gesicki could be. I think it's going to be Theo and Daniel Bellinger, and they got a couple other guys that will most likely be rotating. But again, these are things that you're able to sacrifice a little bit when you do go elite at the tight end position with George Kittle. So hopefully Georgie just carries the squad. If George Kittle dies, the rest of us are going down with him. And that's just kind of the bed I built for myself. So Dwayne, kind of wrapping things up here as we're in the last round. Looking at your team, went with a bit of a hero RB build with Achane in round 2. Got Tyreek, Deebo, Pickens, Godwin, and Roma Dunze as your stub wide receivers. Dipped your toes into the elite tight end waters of Mark Andrews, and then unfortunately you just got sniped time after time on quarterbacks. But didn't panic, didn't make some silly reach on the position. As you always say, you are not going to let other people dictate how you draft. Got Warren, Pollard, another handful of wide receivers, and I think this was the good part to really look at, because Palmer, Lockett, Polk. Not that you needed a ton more help at wide receiver, but
I wouldn't have. I will say the Palmer pick. There's no way I'm making it if I think the guy behind me that already has Jordan Love and Caleb Williams is taking Justin Herbert.
Correct, but
I'm not making that pick. But I still had to keep trying to do it. And I mean,
Exactly.
so it ended up working out with Lockett and Polk getting those guys stacked.
And those are the picks that you want to make at that stage in the draft if you need to keep building your stacks. And guess what, man? Wasn't really the path that I think you wanted to take, but you got there.
Yeah. And the thing I will say, when you get forced into these things, you build some different teams than what you're used to. Like, it just forces you into a different lane. So yeah, I'm actually okay with these sort of things, you know, happening, because you do have to think about it. You have to adjust. Like, you don't want it to happen as often as it did to me here. Like, it's like every time I tried to set it up, it got taken. I was, man, had Drake May gone, I might have had a meltdown. Like, had Drake May gone before it got back to me, like you might have like had to finish the pod by yourself.
Dude, how many teams are drafting 3 tight ends? What is wrong with you people? Robert Tonyan, the Vikings tight end 4, just went off the board. That is insane.
I'm pretty sure there's a better pick than that you can.
Yeah. Take Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, you know, Kevin O'Connell's pronounced best number 3 tight end in the NFL.
And he doesn't have a lot of Green Bay Packers. Doesn't have JJ McCarthy. So I don't know. I have no clue. I was gonna say
bold move.
Wow, actually my pick was Deuce Vaughn, and that went. That's these 20 rounders, man.
Should I hope that Darren Waller unretires? I'm just kidding, but you know, you
could hope that.
Ooh, my guy Gerald Everett, he's back with Shane Waldron. Maybe Cole Kmet, you know, wins $1 million, and it'd have to be more than $1 million, but maybe he says peace. I can get Hayden Hurst, Chris's guy.
Oh, yeah, you could represent with that.
Yuck, I'm good. Even in this. Gross. I am going to go with some correlation and take Kylan Granson for the first and last time of my life. So we will go with that. So I'll let Dwain make his last pick, quickly go over my team. Again, started things off with Bijan, similar strategy as Dwain, where I went hero. Got Devontae, Malik Neighbors, and T. Higgins to hold down the wide receiver room. Then went Anthony Richardson and George Kittle. So I got my elite QB and tight end. You know, in hindsight, you know, the one thing I probably could have changed up was going with a running back instead of Joe Burrow here. But it's a situation where just in this running back and wide receiver tier, I didn't see a guy that I thought I just, you know, couldn't leave without, was overly missing. So got Burrow to stack up with Higgins and was able to eventually, you know, build some nice correlation, as the kids like to say, with Higgins, and then Chase Brown, even to bring back with Jaleel McLaughlin. So when you only have one running back through 9 rounds, you obviously need to pound the position after that. So Corum, Chase Brown, Zach Charbonnet, Gibson, and McLaughlin. Honestly, I think all 5 of those guys kind of fit into the flex with benefits kind of mold, where they each have a chance to be a 1B in their backfield and maybe provide a few spike weeks on their own there. But I do believe in each's, you know, possibility and capability. Lesser extent with Jaleel, but he went the latest to actually take over the backfield should an injury arise. Got Josh Downs to pair up with my Anthony Richardson, Demarcus Robinson, because I really just, again, like the player and situation a lot. Couple more Giants to help with the Colts stack. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because, again, I do think he has some nice underrated handcuff upside, especially in round 18. And then 2 horrendous tight ends, because I didn't do a good enough job addressing my backups at the position earlier. But that's life when you have George Kittle. So Dawson Knox for you at the end, Dwayne. You know, something happens to Dalton Kincaid, obviously he'll benefit. And Dawson Knox, man, could honestly just be a guy where, would it be the most surprising thing if he catches a couple goal line touchdowns, even with a healthy Kincaid? I don't think it would.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with Ray Davis, who I've already got. So I got a bit of a team stack thing going there.
Who is this? Brooks on the Cowboys?
Yeah, Jalen Brooks.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the guy right now that might be beating out Tolbert. That's at least what all the beats are saying.
Touche. I'll watch the film and get better.
Yeah. Well, you know, I live in Dallas, so anytime I get in the car to go anywhere and I have sports radio on, like this is the stuff I hear. So, yeah, with Knox, I didn't really want to take a 3rd tight end, to be honest, because I do have Mark Andrews, but in a 20 rounder, my pick was actually going to be Deuce Vaughn. I did consider Chase Edmonds because I've got Chris Godwin. I've got Chuba Hubbard as the bring back to that game. I'm lighter on running back than I really want to be in a 20-round draft. Typically, what do I end up with 5. I typically want at least 6.
Yeah.
In one of these. So my pick I was really looking at there was running back, but because I took Zach Ertz on the same buy as Mark Andrews, which I still was making the Ertz pick, like, you know how nasty it was. Like, all the tight ends were gone. Zach Ertz might be the starter for the whole season for the Commanders, for all we know. So even though the bye week was there, I wouldn't have changed it, but that opened the door to taking a third. I wouldn't normally take a third when I have Andrews. So, and the Javon Baker pick is not one I would have normally made either, because I took so many wide receivers early. But because I got sniped on my stacks, I was like, okay, I've put my chips in the middle on Drake May. I've got Jalen Polk. It's a wide open roster. Javon Baker, he is the guy that, look, Jalen Polk's the guy I draft the most. But I do feel like the guy with the big ceiling that's really the most different wide receiver on the Patriots, that if suddenly we looked up and we're like, oh my God, like Drake, the Patriots are 6-2, it would probably be because Drake May and Javon Baker are going nuts together. So just kind of, as Peter Overzet likes to say, in this simulation, this alternate reality, in the multiverse, right? Of all your drafts, you have a multiverse of all your drafts. Like in this one, I'm saying that Drake May is going nuts. And so I went with the correlation over the running back there. I really considered taking a running back over the Javon Baker pick. And normally I would have done it. I really have no clue who L. Reese Zamet is, though. For the Chiefs,
that's the rugby 19. Star.
That's the rugby star. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I was
the guy that's going to be cut. Gotcha.
Right. Well, they're talking about maybe using him on like kick returns or, potentially as a special team guy. But yeah, he's the only addition they made. That's why I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire in round 18.
Well, they took two guys undrafted. They have two undrafted free agents they added too. But yeah, I'm with you. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, is one of the best picks on the board late.
They had the one guy last year that was getting talked up and they didn't even end up making the freaking team. So Chiefs beat, man.
Practice squad.
Yeah, I think we need chill out on the Chiefs beat a little bit. That Justin Ross miss didn't do anyone many favors. As much as we can sit here and say, oh, monitor every training camp report. You don't want to miss on the next Puka Nacua. Yeah, we were, guys, and the Elijah Moore and Justin Ross propaganda coming out of KC and Cleveland didn't.
Like, question for you, if you could. I always like doing this. If I could change one pick and go back. So like mine is probably like it's the Tony Pollard decision versus Tua.
Yeah.
Because I've already set up Tyreek Hill with Achane. So should I have gone Tua where I take Pollard, then coming back, I'm obviously not taking Palmer, which I get sniped on Justin Herbert immediately behind me. So I'm looking at a running back of the trade-off of Tony Pollard to going with Ford, Zeke. I'm not taking Gus Edwards. I'm out.
Right.
Or Chase Brown. I do think Pollard's the better player out of all those. Ford's not going to have the starting job all year. Nick Chubb's eventually going to be back. Zeke is the one. Would I rather have Zeke and Tua on this team versus Pollard and Palmer?
Probably the Tua one. And that's why I was asking, like, what. I hear you. It's annoying when the unstacked guys are grabbing Tua, but I wasn't.
Well, I'm honestly not used to it. It just doesn't happen that often on the other side I draft on a lot.
But were you looking for Tua to be like past 10 picks, past ADP getting to? That's tough.
I mean, I'm used to pulling it off.
Yeah.
Once I locate where the Jalen Waddle drafter is, and if the Jalen Waddle drafter is on the other side of me, no, I just take Tua there. But if he's not, most people have drafted some kind of wide receiver early that they're trying. They're aiming their quarterback pick at that. So yeah, I quite often will push quarterback, and I'm not saying it works every time, but it works a lot. I think if you're trying to push a quarterback, like if I want Caleb Williams, I don't try to push him. Why? Because someone has taken DJ Moore in round 3. Maybe that's who you have. Someone has taken Keenan Allen in round 5, and then someone's taken Rome Odunze in round 6.
Right.
So you can't be cute. Brock Purdy, same way. But if I locate like where the other drafter is, like for the other pieces of that stack, that's how I determine whether I'm going to push something or not. And if it's like what I saw here, yeah, I do that all the time.
I hear you, but we always say we can't assume rational decision making with NFL coaches. We sure as hell can't assume rational decision making with the
yeah. But I'm trying to build super teams, man.
Yeah,
So I do risk it, and it does bite me sometimes. Like this is the example of where it gets you. So
again, I like pushing it too, but for me, like past 10 picks, I just don't assume that I'm going to be able to get the guy. And when you're going around a turn, that makes it a little bit more tough. So again, hindsight's 2020. If you did get Tua back to you, then all of a sudden, yeah, we're talking about more of a super team. So, first or last mindset, I don't hate that. I certainly don't hate it. So I would say pick I could have back. I still don't even hate the Burrow decision. Just again,
I think that's the one for you though. If you could.
Honestly,
just because you drafted an elite quarterback, you've put your chips in the middle on Richardson. And you know that later you can take one of the quarterbacks for the Raiders. Like you could have gotten Daniel Jones.
It would have been nice to have a David.
You could have been battling over Geno
or a Mondre. Yeah, I mean, if
I'm glad you took Burrow, because then if not, you probably would have taken Geno, and then I really would have been screwed.
It would be nice to have a stronger RB2. I'll give you that. So yeah, it'd either be Burrow, and again getting the kind of better RB2 at that point, or I think at this point, and I'm not gonna make excuses here, everyone. You know me. We'll just look at the man in the mirror and try to get better. But probably wasn't paying enough attention to the tight ends going off the board late, so really didn't make much sense for me.
Well, it happened really quick. Like it was fine, and then it just went kind of nuts.
I just figured Jelani would be there for me in round 18 pretty much, and he ended up going just right here at the turn. So probably didn't need DeMarcus Robinson on this team. Could have taken Jelani at that point. So those would be the two where I wish I could have gotten the correlated Jelani, and again probably got a little overzealous with Burrow. But
I don't blame you on the Jelani one though. That one kind of surprised me, especially to a drafter that already has Travis Kelce on their team. Although you would throw all rational thinking out for this drafter, because they took
Benson.
They took Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, and Justin Herbert basically back to back.
Oh my goodness. Kelce, Sinet, and got to get Jelani Woods on that squad as well. So, all right, guys, I think that's about going to wrap it up. Dwayne, you've been doing some great work, though, recently on a bunch of age cliff sort of propaganda.
I know we didn't even get into it. I thought we would, because you made your Devontae Adams pick.
We were just drafted.
And our graphic design guy, George, crushed it with this cover, man, with Devontae Adams.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. Oh my gosh.
Dude, that is so dope, man.
He's got a little bit left. Yeah, he's got a little bit left.
yeah, he's got a little bit left. No, and I wrote up Devontae. So if people want to go check it out, you can. So the first part of the article is more of a zoom out. Okay, this is the impact of age on wide receivers. Then I dive into what typically does that look like for former elite, or they're not former yet. They could still be elite.
Yeah.
But these are guys that are aged basically 31 plus that have at least 4 wide receiver 1 finishes on their resume. And then looking at how they've done, do they actually last longer than other wide receivers? So are the elites built different, essentially? And then we get into, okay, great. We now understand basically where these cliffs hit, but are there other different things we can be looking at to maybe even hone in more and say, this is a wide receiver that I should avoid versus this is actually an older wide receiver that I should still feel good about. We break that down. And then finally, I go through all of the guys. There's 7 of them right now that are age 31 plus going into this season. And I did round age based on the beginning of the season, but walk through all those guys, what my stand is on them. Do I want to be above market, below market? Are they a full fade? Are they an absolute buy opportunity? And then I do the same thing for all of the guys that have really been more wide receiver 2s, not the elite wide receiver 1s. And I break down, okay, when do those guys basically fall off? Is it sooner than the elites? So essentially anybody that you're probably drafting that's 30 years or older right now, that's going in the first 14 to 15 rounds of a fantasy draft, we break down all those guys.
Really, really great stuff. And again, as always, you guys have read Dwain before, how he does such a good job, again, explaining the methodology, but then actually getting to, telling you if he is buying the guy, fading the guy, and how to make it actionable. So make sure you guys check that out. You can check out my team preview series that continues to roll out. We're finishing up next Tuesday, and then we'll get more back into nitty gritty, strategy and things of that nature. But we'll be back here each and every Friday for the foreseeable future, drafting again some DraftKings best ball goodness. So please continue to come hang out, like and subscribe, do all that jazz. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. For Dwayne, for producer Matt, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning into a Fantasy Life Best Ball Draft. And until next time, take care, everybody.